My name is Amy Struckmeyer. I'm here at QuiltCon. This is a quilt that I designed, pieced, and quilted specifically for this QuiltCon show. It's called Deconstructed Lone Star, and it won second place in the Modern Traditionalism category. I'm completely honored. This is the first quilt award I've ever won, and one of half a dozen quilts that I've ever made. So the Lone Star is a very traditional quilt pattern, usually consisting of one central star. I recently pulled out a quilt that my mom made for me when I was, years ago when I was a graduate student. That was a Lone Star quilt. And I was looking at it and thinking that it was a really striking pattern. And I wondered what I could do to put a more modern spin on it. And so I started thinking about the pattern. And I got this idea of the star kind of breaking off and shards flying out into space. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to use blues and greens on a dark background. I toyed initially with the idea of using just a solid gray background, but I really wanted you to be able to see that it was a patchwork quilt. And I wanted there to be some depth to the negative space. So I liked the idea of using gray prints. Well, if you've ever shopped for gray prints, you've probably found that if you're looking for gray, there's a huge range of grays. And so, although I wanted it to look like patchwork, I also wanted there to be some consistency, something to tie those grays together. So I decided I was going to dye some fabrics. So I started collecting black on white fabrics. I had never used Procyon dye before. I got advice from everybody that I knew who had ever dyed fabric, and I did it. And it was really interesting to see how it turned out, because as you can see, not every piece in the background is dyed, but most of them are. And depending on the initial white of the fabric, depending on the manufacturer and the substrate, they all took the dyes differently. So I was really happy with their, there's this kind of similar tone, but that worked. So so that was the design, and then I pieced it, and the regular points were fairly straightforward, but I was really trying to get this randomness. I strip pieced it because I wanted to make it simpler for myself. But then if you notice, these broken stars are also pieced just like a traditional Lone Star, but they're using that neutral black, gray fabric so that they blend into the negative space. And I loved the idea of combining this improv piecing with the traditional star. And so I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Thank you.